to discuss that. Dulce Decorum is actually written by Wilfred Owen. Okay. Now Wilfred Owen is famous for being a poet who has an anti-war mentality. Like, he doesn't support war no matter what the reason is. Alright? Actually, if we look at a little bit into his life, he used to be a soldier during the First World War. Okay, from 1914 till 1918, you're aware that the First World War took place then. And during he was severe, he was in hospital for quite a long time trying to recover. Okay? And while he was in the hospital, as well as when he was fighting on the battlefield, he saw the horrors of war actually. It's one thing for us to sit at home and say that, oh, the soldiers are so brave and they are doing such a wonderful job for all of us. Of course they are brave, we salute their bravery. But at the same time, he questioned the very logic of war, because he believed that it really doesn't help. It helps no one. It does, because he believed that in a war there are no victors. Nobody is winning and nobody is losing. What happens is that people are just dying. People are simply dying. And he also believed that war was a result of ego, nothing else. Because he was kind of a peaceful man, so he believed that it was possible to work out solutions even without going into a physical conflict. Okay? Now, since as a student of literature, I'm sure you know that whatever poets or authors write has a lot to do with their thinking. Okay? So therefore, since his experiences with war had not been very pleasant, therefore his thought process has a deep impact on the kind of poetry he wrote. You pick up any poem of Wilfred Owen and you will see the same thing happening. Okay? Now let us take a look at the poem and I will explain it to you as I go along. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge. Now, when we think of a soldier, what is the image that comes to our mind? Of a very fit young man, standing tall, walking smartly. This is the kind of image we are used to seeing. Okay? But he completely does away with that image. He gives us an image of soldiers who are nothing like the ones we see on TV or the ones we see in movies. Okay? What does he say? He says that they are bent double. They are so tired, or they are carrying such a load that they are not straight as a soldier is supposed to be. They are stooping, correct? Like old beggars under sacks, because they were carrying their weapons, they had their stuff on their back. It was so heavy, they were absolutely dead tired. Okay? Knock-kneed. Knock-kneed means they were having pain in their knees. Yeah, they had weak knees and their knees were paining. The reason, during the First World War, weapons were not so sophisticated. So as a result, they had to scoot down on the ground, squat and sit and shoot their guns. And long hours of doing that didn't do their knees any favor. Okay? Coughing like hags. Why were they coughing? Because of the smoke, because of the dirt all around. Like hags. Do you know the meaning of the word hags? Okay, hags means old women, and old women who are not well cared for. They are going to cough, they don't have any energy left in them. The soldiers were looking like that. We cursed through sludge. Sludge means the dirt that has been left behind combined with the blood. As a result, what happens? Blood is a kind of a liquid. So when that falls on the mud and the dirt, it gets all sludgy, very difficult to walk through. Okay? And they were cursing their way through the battlefield because they were sick and tired of what was happening and they would rather go be somewhere else than over here. So the image that a soldier is always smart, that a soldier is always very much aware of what is happening, they are forever ready, that is not the true thing we will see if we go into the battlefield. Okay? Till on the haunting flares we turned our backs and towards a distant rest began to trudge. They turned their backs on the haunting flares. That means the battle was raging behind them on the battlefield, but perhaps their shift was over, so it was time for them to go back. Okay? And all they cared was going back to their tents, maybe have a couple of hours of rest before they rejoin the battle again. Began to trudge. Trudge means walk very slowly with a very heavy step. That is, they were very low on energy. They were very tired, so they couldn't walk properly. Men marched asleep. Again, an imagery which is directly contradicting what we think of a soldier. A soldier is never supposed to be asleep, is he? He's always supposed to be alert. But they are human beings as well. So after a long battle, you really cannot expect them to be on full alert. So they were almost asleep. They were kind of half drunk as they were walking through there. Many had lost their boots but limped on bloodshot. Most of the boots were gone. Some had been shot away. Some were broken away. But they were still walking. Limping would be a better word to use. And they were bloodshot. This means that their feet were covered with the blood that was lying on the ground of the battlefield. Because they had no shoes, they were walking barefoot, and while they were walking, the blood of the battlefield got on their foot and it kind of dried and it formed a shoe of its own. In a way of expression, they were wearing bloody shoes actually. Okay, literally bloody shoes they were wearing. All went lame, all blind. That means, the battle had damaged them physically tremendously. They couldn't walk properly. They couldn't see properly. Why they couldn't see? Not that because they were physically blind, but firstly because they were very tired, and secondly, like you said, there were flares. So in front of the bright light, sometimes you can't see properly. There was a lot of dirt. There was a lot of dust, and that was also causing a blockage in their vision. But drunk with fatigue, they were so tired. This is something I explained before, that they were walking like drunkards actually. They were so dead tired. Deaf even to the hoots of tired outstripped 5.9s that dropped behind. What was happening? That shelling was going on behind them. 5.9 is 5.9 caliber explosive guns. Okay, this is a make of an ammunition actually. The guns were shelling. There were bombings happening, but they were completely immune. They didn't care about their safety. All they wanted was that, we want to get away from the battlefield. We just want to go somewhere. We just want to get away from this, take a moment of repose, take a moment of rest. Gas. One of the weapons that was very common during the First World War was using poisonous gases against the enemy. Okay, and these shells, the shellings were not normal shells. They were actually gas being dropped. So suddenly the warning came out. Quick boys, so the order came from the captain that be quick, and ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. Now along with their regular army helmets, during the First World War, the soldiers all had compulsory gas masks also, okay, because they knew this attack would be coming. So the gas mask is actually, have you ever seen a gas mask in movies and all? They have this big goggles and you cover it all over your face, okay, and they had to pulling down in time. Fumbling, good expression to use. It means that they were, ecstasy in this case doesn't signify actually happiness. In this case, ecstasy symbolizes nervousness. They were scared that, oh my god, a gas attack has happened. And very quickly, as fast as possible, they tried to pull down the masks on their faces. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling. Unfortunately, there was one person who was not able to do this on time. So before that person could actually bring down his gas masks, the gas actually got to him. As a result, what happened was that, he was affected by it. He breathed it into his system and it was absolutely horribly painful for him. That is the reason he was yelling and he was stumbling, because he couldn't stand on his 2 feet. And when there's gas all around, again you can't see anything properly. Okay? And floundering like a man in fire or lime. And he was floundering. Floundering means he couldn't move in a cohesive manner. More importantly, he was looking for support. He was just going like this, looking for someone to hold on to. It's as if, you put somebody on fire, you burn somebody, or you just put somebody in lime, means a lime kiln where brick is baked actually. Okay, so what happens is that the person is going to try and rush out of it. That, he's going to just flay his hands and go wherever he feels like, just hoping that somebody would pull him out, somebody would give him some sort of a support. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. Now dim, why was the vision of the poet blurred? Because of the gas all around. Okay, he was feeling dizzy. Even if he didn't feel dizzy because of the mask, it was preventing a clear vision. And when you see through a gas mask, things usually appear a little bit of a greenish, because it's not a very transparent glass that is there on the gas mask. Okay, so it's more like a night vision camera or something. Okay, night vision glasses, you see images in green mostly over there. So through a green light, he could see this soldier floundering. The gas fumes were all over. The gas fumes appeared to be green to him, again because of the same reason, because he was looking through a gas mask. And to him mentally, it appeared that this poor soldier, who was unable to pull down his protection in time, he was actually drowning. It was like as if he was drowning in a green sea. He was not literally drowning. He was just floundering about in the smoke. But the imagery, I mean, you just look at the... Yeah, not only to the poet, but the poet is setting up a very powerful imagery for us also. I mean, you just have to close your eyes and you imagine there's this green thing. The poor man is floundering. It is as if he is going under some sort of a water body, and there he was drowning, and there was nothing anybody could really do to pull him out of that situation. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. This was a nightmare. This nightmare stayed with the poet for years and years to come. Whenever he tried to close his eyes, whenever he tried to go to sleep, all he could see was this image. What did he see? He saw this man drowning. He was helpless, and not only that, the drowning scene itself was absolutely tragic. He was choking. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't stand still. And he just kept on groping at the poet, and that's what the poet saw in his imagination. And he felt very helpless, and in fact a little bit guilty also, that he was unable to do anything to help this poor guy out of this problem. Okay, so it's one thing to watch someone die in front of you, but it's worse when you know you can't do anything. That person shouts for help, asks for help, but you just stand there because there's nothing that you can do about it. Okay? If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung in him, he asks us to share his dream. That maybe smothering means suffocating. That if we ever had a dream like this, it would be horribly suffocating for us, because we have no idea what it is like. We sit at home, we watch it on TV, read it in papers and glorify them, but we don't know what happens there. So he feels that if once only we could see what he has seen, or what actually happens in the battlefield, it would completely change our idea of everything. Okay? Behind the wagon that we flung him in. Actually, there was nothing they could do for him. So the best thing they did was they just picked him up and put him at the back of a wagon, covered carriage. Like a truck kind of a thing used to carry the army personnel. I'm sure you must have seen it all over. And watch the white eyes writhing in his face. That is the black of his eyes. That is, his eyeball had disappeared due to the great pain. His eyes were completely white, and they were writhing. Writhing means his eyes were fluctuating like this. The eyes were portraying the kind of anguish he felt, the pain, and the suffering that was going on. His hanging face like a devil's, sick of sin. His skin started to hang. Because it was poisonous, it had an effect on his skin. It started to peel off actually. And it was looking like a devil's face, and not a normal devil's face. Devil is associated with sin, right? So when we talk of devil, we talk of sin. But in this case, this devil has sinned so much that the devil himself is sick of the sin. That is the extreme comparison that the poet is making of the face of this soldier to the face of a devil. That it is not the face of a normal devil. It is the face of a devil who has sinned perhaps at the highest degree. It was grotesque. A word for it would be grotesque. Okay? If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth corrupted lungs. He wants us to be there. He wants us to be there to experience that with each breath this poor soldier was taking, his blood was gargling. You could actually hear, because his lungs had burst. They were not functioning because of the poison he had inhaled. Yes, because of the poison he had inhaled. And as a result, his blood was actually gargling like bubbles. It was actually bubbling, and that is why it was not flowing smoothly within him. Obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile incurable sores on innocent tongues. Now he means by this that what was happening when people have cancer, what happens is that you start developing disfigurations. It begins like an ulcer, that it spreads all over, the wound open up, blood oozes out, pus starts oozing out. It's absolutely a horrible sight. The same thing was happening with this poor guy. His mouth was covered with ulcers suddenly, as if he had very severe, perhaps the last stage of cancer. You could see blood oozing out. You could see the pus coming out of his mouth. Okay? Of vile, incurable sores and innocent. See the way he has used innocence. That the soldier didn't deserve a death like this, did he? If he had died from a bullet wound, or perhaps if he had been hit by a shell, it would have been something else. But this slow death over a long period of time, nobody deserved this. And soldiers don't fight because they want to. They fight because they have to, because someone else told them to do it. Have you studied the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred? Okay, you haven't. It's a poem you do in your junior classes. There's a particular line over there which says, theirs is not to reason why, theirs is but to do and die. Which means that a soldier cannot question why. They simply have to obey the order of their superiors. Okay? So which means that he was also doing the same thing. So he was not guilty. He certainly didn't deserve to die like this. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce decorum est pro patria mori. Now what does this word mean? Dulce decorum est pro patria mori. Yeah, it's Latin. Do you know what it means? It means that it is an honor to die for one's country. The lie is dulce decorum est pro patria mori. That is, people say it is honor to die for one's country. That is what this phrase means. But the poet tells us, if we were there and we had witnessed firsthand what had happened to this poor soldier, then we would never ever tell a little kid that yes, go into the army because it is an honor to die for your country. Because there is no honor in such a death. In fact, there is no honor in any kind of death. I think honor is more in living and serving your country.
If you have any queries regarding this lesson, then do follow me on my blog, which is noenglishonline.blogspot.in, or you can send me an email at globalenglishttrainer@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.